Hello, in this video we're going to be talking about the mitochondria and the chloroplast. Let's not waste any of your time. Let's get right to it. Now, when we're talking mitochondria and chloroplast, man, we are really talking about elite level organelles. These two, in essence, you can almost say just run the world. I mean, the idea of making sugars, the idea of breaking down sugars, and that cycle between plants and animals. I mean, there's not much else that's more important than those two processes. So, without each of the organelles, we would struggle to exist. But without these two, I mean, we wouldn't last long. The ability to break down sugars, if we couldn't get those resources, or if the plants weren't making them, super important. If nothing else, they're important enough because they're the focal points of their own chapters, much like the plasma membrane is with photosynthesis and cellular respiration. So, talking about the mitochondria, found in all types of eukaryotic cells. Cellular respiration is, as I mentioned, the idea of breaking down those sugar molecules. Again, got its membrane on the outer side. Now on the inside, and again, this is the focal point of chapter 7 when you're talking about cellular respiration, because different parts of it happen in different sections of the mitochondria. But you got that outer membrane, obviously. Then you got the inner space. Then you got your inner membrane when you're passing through kind of the bulk of the mitochondria. And of course, you got that matrix in there as well. And the process just kind of moves across the mitochondria from the outside where glycolysis occurs to the deep inside where the electron transport chain and chemoosmosis is going on. But a super important organelle, and again, we'll talk much about it in chapter 7, cellular respiration. Okay, continuing to talk about the mitochondria. It's long been known as the powerhouse or the energy factory of the cell, and that's because ATP is made here. That process of making ATP in chemoosmosis, which is a part of cellular respiration you'll become much familiar with once we get there. And so if you're going to be making energy, areas that need lots of energy, like muscles. Muscle cells have an abundance of mitochondria, which would just seem to make sense. Kind of oval shaped, typically, and when you're looking at a diagram of a cell, it's been colorized to make things stand out. They kind of get that. Just lost my phrase. Bean. Red bean, kidney bean. Yeah, kidney bean is what I was looking for. Kidney bean kind of shaped, oval, reddish brown when you're looking at it. But that's the mitochondria. Okay, now thinking about the chloroplast. And again, when we get to chapter 8, man, we'll draw these. We'll make sure that you understand all these components. But for now, we're just talking about the generalities of it. Again, it's got its own membrane, but inside there, that chlorophyll, that is where the process of photosynthesis occurs. All plants have these, we know, but not us. We don't have any of these. We're not green. But just think if we did. I mean, the idea if we had our own chloroplast, we could make our own sugars. From a resource standpoint, we wouldn't have to eat. Man, just think what that would change society. You know, if we had taste buds, maybe we would still eat just for that sensation or that pleasure, but we wouldn't need to. I mean, if you could just live off of what your cells made just fine, And that would redo the you know, from a culture standpoint, restaurants, grocery stores, big family dinners. I mean, just think about that, how that would change. But we don't have to worry about it because that isn't the case. But when we do talk about Chapter 8, photosynthesis, we'll break down all these components. The idea of the thylakoid, that's those individual. You look at that diagram picture beside me in like stacks of coins. Okay, that's a granum. Thylakoids. Thylakoid is where the photosynthesis stuff is going on. The empty space is much like the cytoplasm in a cell. The watery empty spaces, the stroma, is kind of where, again, that's where the second half of photosynthesis occurs. But that's the idea of the structure of a chloroplast. Well, that's our video over the mitochondria and the chloroplast. Next time we get together, we'll be talking about, who's number 9? Oh no, we're on 10. The cell wall and, centrosomes, cell wall, and the extracellular matrix. So we'll see you then.